President Trump just promised a fantastic deal with China on October 20th. But here's what he's not telling you. Beijing expanded rare earth export controls. Trump threatened 100% tariffs by November 1st, and China's top negotiator just got fired. Now, I have comprehensive information from recent sources. Let me create the high CTR video script. Title: Trump's Fantastic Deal. With China breaking what November 1st means for America. Hook: President Trump just promised a fantastic deal with China on October 20th. But here's what he's not telling you. Beijing expanded rare earth export controls. Trump threatened 100% tariffs by November 1st, and China's top negotiator just got fired. What does this all mean for your smartphone, your car, and your wallet? I'll break down the real story in the next 60 seconds. Video transcript. We're watching one of the most dangerous trade standoffs in recent history unfold right before our eyes. And what happens in the next 7 days could reshape America's economy for the next decade. Let me explain what's actually going on. On October 20th, 2025, President Trump stood in the White House next to Australia's Prime Minister and declared something that caught everyone's attention. "I think we're going to end up having a fantastic deal with China," Trump said. "It's going to be a great trade deal. It's going to be fantastic for both countries, and it's going to be fantastic for the entire world." Sounds good, right? But here's the context you need to understand. Just 11 days earlier, on October 9th, Beijing dropped an economic bomb. China's Ministry of Commerce announced sweeping export controls on rare earth materials, the critical minerals that go into your iPhone, your Tesla, F-35 fighter jets, wind turbines, and basically every piece of advanced technology you use. We're talking about materials like dysprosium, terbium, scandium, and yttrium. Names you've never heard of, but materials you literally cannot live without in the modern world. China controls about 70% of rare earth mining globally, and a staggering 90% of processing, according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And here's where it gets really interesting. Beijing's new rules don't just control exports from China. For the first time ever, they're invoking what's called the de minimis rule and foreign product rule. Starting December 1st, companies anywhere in the world will need Chinese government permission to export products that contain even trace amounts, we're talking 0.1% or more, of Chinese origin rare earths, or that were made using Chinese technology. Think about that for a second. If you're a manufacturer in Germany, Japan, or right here in America, using rare earth magnets that came from China 5 years ago, Beijing is now claiming the authority to control what you can and cannot export. That's extraterritorial reach on a scale we've rarely seen. So how did President Trump respond? On October 10th, he announced a 100% tariff on all Chinese goods, effective November 1st. That's on top of the 30% across-the-board tariffs already in place, bringing total tariffs on Chinese imports to somewhere between 55% and 57%, according to Trump himself. But the president also made something clear during that October 20th press conference. When asked about China's leverage, Trump said, "Beijing threatened us with rare earths, and I threatened them with tariffs." He added that China is now treating the U.S. with great respect because of those threatened tariffs. And here's what makes this moment so critical. Trump confirmed he'll meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping later this month on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. That's potentially happening in South Korea at the end of October. All eyes are on that meeting because any failure to reach an agreement doesn't just hurt U.S.-China relations. It threatens the entire global economy. Now, Let me tell you about a development that happened on the very same day Trump made his fantastic deal comments. Chinese President Xi Jinping removed Li Chenggang from his post as China's permanent representative to the World Trade Organization. No official reason was given, but the timing is absolutely stunning. Just days before his removal, on October 15th, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent publicly called Li unhinged and said he had gone rogue. Bessent revealed that Li had shown up in Washington uninvited in late August, demanding meetings and threatening that China would unleash chaos on the global system if the U.S. went ahead with docking fees for Chinese ships. According to sources, Li lectured the Americans and restated what Bessent called China's false narratives. The fact that Beijing removed their lead negotiator right before critical talks suggests either a major internal shakeup or a strategic pivot. Bessent himself said last week that things have de-escalated and expressed hope that China would show more respect going forward. So what does all of this mean for you, for America, and for everyday Americans? First, let's talk about prices. If these 100% tariffs actually go into effect on November 1st, and Trump himself admitted last week that it's not sustainable at that level, you're looking at massive price increases on everything from electronics to appliances to toys. Chinese goods make up a huge portion of what's on store shelves. But here's the counter-argument from the Trump administration. China needs U.S. markets more than we need their goods, especially right now when China's economy is struggling with deflation and weak domestic consumer demand. Trump has leverage because Chinese manufacturers are desperate for export markets. Second, we need to talk about rare earths and national security. China's near monopoly on these materials is a genuine strategic vulnerability. They're not just in consumer products, they're in missile guidance systems, radar equipment, military communications, and jet engines. Trump emphasized this on October 20th, when he told Australia's Prime Minister that the U.S. has other options against China. They can't get parts for their airplanes. We build their airplanes. The same day Trump made those comments, he celebrated an agreement with Australia worth $8.5 billion focused on critical minerals. The White House is clearly trying to build alternative supply chains that bypass China entirely, but experts are blunt about the timeline. Haley Channer from the University of Sydney told reporters it will take at least a decade to break China's rare earth dominance, even with massive investment. That brings us to the third major point: supply chain resilience. For years, American companies have been warning about over-reliance on China for critical materials. Now we're seeing why. When Beijing can flip a switch and control not just exports from China, but exports from any country using Chinese materials or technology, that's economic warfare capability. The new Chinese export controls that took effect on October 9th cover rare earth metals and alloys, magnet technologies used in electric vehicles and wind turbines, super-hard materials like synthetic diamonds, and high-energy battery components. Companies anywhere in the world that want to export these products now need to go through China's Ministry of Commerce, wait up to 45 working days for approval, and risk being placed on a dishonesty list if they violate the rules. For American companies, this creates a nightmare scenario. You could be manufacturing products in the United States using components that contain trace amounts of Chinese rare earths from years ago, and Beijing is now claiming jurisdiction over your exports. Violations could not only expose you to Chinese enforcement, but affect your ability to do any business with China in the future. Fourth, let's talk about the diplomatic chess match happening right now. Late last week, Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng had a video call with Treasury Secretary Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer. According to China's official Xinhua news agency, they held a candid, in-depth, and constructive exchange and agreed to hold a new round of trade talks as soon as possible. Besant said on October 17th that he and his Chinese counterpart would likely meet in Malaysia soon to prepare for the Trump-Xi summit. So, despite all the tough talk and threats, both sides are still talking. That's actually good news. But here's what worries me. Trump has also dismissed concerns about Taiwan, saying on October 20th that China won't attack the island because U.S. military power is far superior. It's not even close, he said. When asked if he could yield to Beijing's pressure not to support Taiwan independence in exchange for a trade deal, Trump gave a revealing answer. Well, I'm not going to talk about that. That suggests Taiwan could be on the negotiating table. And that should concern every American who cares about freedom, democracy, and maintaining U.S. credibility with our allies. So, what should you be watching in the next 48 hours and beyond? First, watch November 1st. That's the deadline Trump set for the 100% tariffs if no deal is reached. Will he actually implement them, or is this a negotiating tactic? My guess, he'll either delay or scale them back if China shows flexibility, because even Trump admitted they're not sustainable. Second, watch for the Malaysia meeting between U.S. and Chinese trade officials. If that happens this weekend, or early next week, it's a signal both sides are serious about de-escalation. Third, watch rare earth prices and stocks. Companies like Lynas Rare Earths in Australia and MP Materials in the United States saw wild swings after the U.S.-Australia deal was announced. Australian rare earth stocks jumped initially, then many fell back. That volatility tells you investors are uncertain about what comes next. Fourth, watch China's economic data. Beijing is dealing with serious internal economic problems: deflation, weak consumer spending, a property crisis. Xi needs export markets to keep Chinese factories running. That desperation gives Trump leverage, but it also makes China's leadership unpredictable. Fifth, watch for details on the Trump-Xi summit at the end of October. What gets decided in that room could determine whether we're heading for a new era of U.S.-China cooperation or a complete economic decoupling that reshapes global trade for a generation. Now, let me address the other side of this argument, because it's important to be fair. Some analysts say Trump's tariff threats are reckless, and that picking a fight with China over rare earths is dangerous when we don't have alternatives ready. They argue that American consumers will pay the price through higher costs, and that threatening our largest trading partner creates global economic instability. China's foreign ministry spokesperson said on October 15th that threatening high tariffs is not the right way to deal with China. And they have a point about diplomatic norms. The European Union is already scrambling to hold urgent talks with China about the rare earth controls, with EU Trade Chief Maros Sefcovic speaking to his Chinese counterpart on October 21st. But here's my take, and I want to be clear. This is analysis and opinion. China created this situation by building a monopoly on critical materials and then weaponizing that monopoly the moment it served their interests. The U.S. and our allies should have diversified supply chains decades ago. We didn't, and now we're paying the price. Trump's approach is aggressive and risky, but doing nothing isn't an option either. If we don't stand up to economic coercion now, it will only get worse. The question isn't whether to confront China's rare earth dominance. It's how to do it smartly, while minimizing damage to American workers and families. The November 1st deadline is real. The Trump-Xi summit is real. And the economic and national security stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about trade numbers or diplomatic protocol. It's about whether America maintains the ability to manufacture advanced technology, defend ourselves militarily, and compete economically without Beijing's permission. If you made it this far, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to Politics Tribune. so you never miss these critical updates. We're living through a pivotal moment in American history, and you deserve to understand what's really happening. So here's my question for you, and I want you to comment below. Should President Trump go ahead with the 100% tariffs on November 1st if China doesn't make major concessions, or should he extend negotiations to avoid short-term economic pain? Comment yes if you think he should hold firm and implement the tariffs, or no if you think he should keep negotiating. And tell me why you think that way. This is about more than just Trump versus China. It's about America's economic future, our national security, and whether we're willing to endure short-term pain for long-term strategic independence. The clock is ticking. November 1st is 7 days away, and what happens next will echo for years to come. I'm your host at Politics Tribune, and I'll be following every development in this story. Because when it comes to America's future, you deserve the truth. Not spin, not propaganda, but the facts you need to form your own opinion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
If you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos.